why don't you kind of walk me back into where it all started, and just kind of give the audience some background here, a reminder. The premise of this podcast is to really focus in on those pit to peak moments in life. And sometimes those moments can kind of spur a lifespan. Sometimes they're continuing to revolve around lessons that we've learned, at a younger age, and always going back to those lessons and figuring out how to incorporate them in our older lives. So Eddie, where did life get started for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me on here. I would say for me, I was born in Colombia in South America, and my life was kind of an up and down, although I was young. I sort of understood later on what it meant with everything that went down. And we talked a little bit before the show about what this looked like. But when I was younger, I found out that my father was actually in the cartel of my local neighborhood. One would think that this is, similar to the show Narcos, but it's not. It's not as eventful or fruitful. Rather, it's sort of this like very existentialist vagueness, right, that exists. And so it wasn't until some like things came to a head at home that my mom kind of decided to uproot us, just her and I. Get on a plane to Mexico, cross the border, and sort of make our way to New York, right? And the land of opportunity for a lot of immigrants. And from there, it's just sort of keeping this secret, right? The secret that I was undocumented, this secret of my background, sort of assimilate in this pattern. I think that follows a lot of immigrant families of just like blend in, don't get in trouble, do the right thing, and try not to sort of rock the boat a lot. And so I kind of moved on through life with that, trying to reconcile sort of the nationalism that existed within me from where I was, and now, coming into kind of the American lifestyle. And so it was really valuable for me to consistently reflect on that, but I never really had an outlet, right? If I had down periods or I had moments that, issues occurred within my household or issues occurred back home with my dad. It was something that I could never share with someone for fear of deportation.
It's a lot to digest. And, you say it so fluently now because it's your story, of course. But, I feel like, especially since the last time we spoke, one thing I picked up on was over the years, you've become more and more comfortable with your story. I think for the average listener out there, let's take a step back. And you pointed out that, what your father was doing wasn't what we see in mainstream media, depicted, in Narcos, for instance. I want to get a little bit more explicit, and really kind of paint a picture for what that was like. And I know you were young, but, maybe what your mom had described to you.
Of course, yeah. So I know we had discussed one event that really sticks out to me the most, right? And so I'm about 5 years old at the time, and I recall that we were going to go see a movie. I don't recall what movie it is. It was a very long time ago. But we kept circling this one house my dad was driving at the time, and my mom was giving a hard time, like, hey, moron, why don't you just park? And we finally did. And the next morning on the news, the people in the house that we kept circling were dead. And my mom confronted my dad, who was in a good mood at the time, and said, did you have anything to do with this? To which he immediately, his demeanor changed. And he responded, if you say anything to anyone, I will kill your mother, I will kill your father, your brothers, everyone will die. And I remember this argument as a child a lot differently, right? Because you sort of creatively infantilize stuff. But she had taken scissors and stabbed my dad in the thigh and said, you don't ever threaten me. And that was the huge turning point for her, where she realized that if we continued to stay in our current situation at that time, I most likely would either become a part of something very dangerous or we would lose our lives.